Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. And this is Mystery Schools by Rodman R. Clayson, Grand Master. An article taken from Rosicrucian Digest, Volume 30, Number 2, February 1952. Mystery Schools by Rodman R. Clayson, Grand Master. Every student of ancient or medieval history has found references to the mystery schools. The existence of mystery schools extends so far back in time that perhaps its origin is unknown. That which is referred to as mysterious implies that there is no ready explanation for it. A mystery or the mysterious has appealed to the human mind. It would seem then that mystery is applicable to the unknown, a condition upon which man seeks an explanation. The word mystery, in describing the ancient schools, is a fairly modern term. Mystery schools had much to do with the mystery of birth, life, and death. Rituals and dramas revolving around these conditions were contrived. It must be construed that the teachers in the mystery schools had found satisfactory answers relating to birth, life, and death. It is also said that the schools carried on an unrestricted search for knowledge for the betterment of the individual and for the improvement of the community by example. The mystery schools were usually associated with the advance of civilization. The pagan priesthood looked with great disfavor upon the true mystery schools. The priests felt that the teachings of the schools were competitive with that order of life advocated by the priests. It was necessary, therefore, that the adherents to the mystery schools meet in secret. Thus were formed secret brotherhoods. The most profound secrets of nature, science, and art were not entrusted to the masses. They were taught, however, to the secret brotherhoods of the mystery schools. Aspirants of the mystery schools were taught to contemplate the unknown so that through understanding much of the unknown would become known. The initiate was made to realize that he was changing his old order of living. Many of the teachings were revealed in the initiations conducted in the mystery schools. Through initiation, candidates were introduced to the mysteries. Initiations were ceremonial occasions in which the lives and accomplishments of various gods were used to exemplify or symbolize certain truths and concepts. Osirian, Eleusinian, and Brahmi. Perhaps the Egyptian Osirian mysteries are the oldest of all mysteries or initiations. In the original legend, Set killed his brother, Osiris. In the initiation rites of the mystery school, it was shown that Osiris represented the earthly creative forces and also virtue and goodness. His brother Set was the manifestation of evil. It was pointed out that the two forces of good and evil were continually in conflict. It was shown that Osiris had led a good life and that he was resurrected and enjoyed an afterlife. Isis, the sister wife of Osiris, recovered the body of Osiris following his death, and she breathed into his nostrils the breath of life of another world. Another ancient initiation was that of the Eleusinian mysteries. The mysteries were dramatized at Eleusis in ancient Greece. The principal characters in the mystery were Demeter and her daughter Persephone, the goddesses of agriculture. The death of Persephone, who was taken away by enemies, caused Demeter much suffering. The initiation taught immortality, and the myths about the goddesses of vegetation show that just as plants die in the winter and are reborn in the spring, man, after his earthly days, will be resurrected in Elysium, the heaven of the ancients. The secret dramas of the Eleusinian mysteries are generally believed to have been found by Eumolpus about 1400 years before Christ. The temple of Eleusis was lighted only by an opening in the roof. The opening represented the universe. Aristides referred to the Eleusinian mysteries as the common temple of the whole world. The advocates of the mysteries, through their acts, gave acknowledgement of the insufficiency of popular concepts to satisfy the deeper thoughts and aspirations of the mind. Everywhere and in all their forms, the mysteries were concerned with the celebrating of death and with the restoration to life. In the various legends, the details of the mode of death varied in the different countries where the mysteries were practiced. It was generally known that there were mystery schools not only in Egypt, but also in Chaldea, India, and Greece. The essence of all the mysteries consisted of a conception of an unapproachable being, a being that manifested itself to the senses in the eternal round of movement, birth, life, and death. Revered powers in many of the mysteries were in reality nature gods. Initiations in the mystery schools were often held on the occasion of the equinoxes, on the separation of night and day, at the moment when one of these principles began to prevail over the other. This, of course, referred to the eternal contest between the two principles of light and darkness. The keynote to the mysteries is found in the words of Longfellow, "The soul is dead that slumbers." To the Eleusinian philosophers, true birth was that of the immaterial spiritual nature of man rising above his fleshly nature. In Dante's Inferno are symbolically described the sufferings of those who had not freed their spiritual natures from the cravings, habits, and limitations of their baser natures. The secret exercises for spiritual unfoldment were probably not generally known, but there is reason to believe that they were similar to the Brahmic mysteries, since it is known that the Eleusinian ceremonies were closed with the Sanskrit words conx om pax. That the mysteries taught in the ancient schools were based upon great and eternal truths is attested by the veneration in which they were held by the great minds of that time. Cicero said of the Eleusinian mysteries that they taught men not only how to live, but also how to die. Apparently, the Eleusinian mysteries survived other, less strongly supported mysteries and remained an institution until nearly 400 years after Christ. They were then suppressed by Theodosius, who declared that all would be destroyed who did not accept the Christian faith. In Athens, the mysteries were practiced until about the 8th century. It is said that the ideals of early Christianity were based on the high moral standards of the pagan mysteries, and that the first Christians met in the catacombs under Rome and used as their places of worship the subterranean temples of Mithras. The mystery schools taught that no man could live intelligently who did not have a fundamental knowledge of nature and her laws, and that before man can obey, he must understand. Initiations and myths. Initiation in the mystery schools included the teachings of the truths of primitive revelation, the immortality of the soul, the existence and attributes of one God, and the phenomena of nature. Symbolically, the mysteries demonstrated the one of which the manifold was an infinite illustration. Initiation was held to elevate the soul from the material and purely human life to a communion with that which was of a higher divine nature. Plato said that the object of the mysteries was to re-establish the soul in its primitive purity and perfection. Of the mysteries, Cicero wrote, "It is with good reason that they use the term initiation, for it is in reality through them we have learned the first principles of life. And they not only teach us to live in a manner more consoling and agreeable, but they soften the pains of death by hope of a better life hereafter." Probably the foremost object of the mysteries was to teach the doctrine of one God, the resurrection of man to eternal life, to give dignity to the human soul, and to see the reflection of the deity in the magnificent splendor of the universe. The Mithraic mysteries are a simplification of the teachings of Zoroaster, the Persian mystic. Mithras, the god of intelligence, stands as mediator between Ormuzd, representing good, and Ahriman, representing evil. In the myth, each was struggling for control of the soul and for supremacy in nature. In the ritual of initiation were repeated references to the birth of Mithras, to his sacrifice for man, to his death so that men might have eternal life, to his resurrection, and the raising of humanity by his intercession before the throne of Ormuzd. The Mithraic mystery schools seem to choose caves, for the most part, for their meeting places. Mithras was said to have been born on the occasion of the winter solstice about December 25th. Mithras was said to dwell in the sun. As Mithras, he was lord of the sun. As Mithra, the feminine principle was represented. Persian mystics carried Mithraism to Rome during the 1st century after Christ. At one time, nearly all of Western Europe was converted to the Mithraic beliefs. Alexander Wilder wrote, "The Mithraic rites superseded the mysteries of Bacchus and became the foundation for the Gnostic system." The mystery of Mithras flourished particularly under Constantine. Mithras was not only light, but intelligence. The Egyptian cross, Tau, was inscribed on the forehead of every person who was admitted into the mysteries of Mithras. The Tau represented life. A sword with a black blade and a white hilt was used in these mysteries to represent the two principles of light and darkness. The Orphic mysteries are said to have been founded by Orpheus. These mysteries gave much attention to God, man, and nature. Dionysus was the god of nature, or of the moisture which is the life of nature. Dionysus, Hermes, Prometheus, and Poseidon stand as one. Like Mithras, Dionysus became the purveyor of light, life, and truth. Dionysus was said to be not only the creator of the world, but the guardian of it, to die only to be reborn again. This gave strength to the concept that Dionysus was the offspring of the creator. Orpheus founded the Greek mythological system as a medium for his philosophic teachings. There are those who say that Orpheus was a Hindu. It is known that Orpheus was initiated into the Egyptian mysteries. The myth of Orpheus shows that he was one of the immortals who sacrificed himself so that mankind might have the wisdom of the gods. Plutarch said that Adonis and Bacchus were regarded as one and the same deity, and that this opinion was founded on the great similarity in many respects between the mysteries of the two gods. In some accounts, the mysteries of Bacchus were known as the Sabaean, Orphic, and Dionysian festivals. They went back to the remotest antiquity among the Greeks, and by some were attributed to Bacchus himself, and by others to Orpheus. Bacchus represented the rational soul of the inferior world. The mystery rites of Dionysus seemed to parallel those of Bacchus. Some felt that they were one and the same, except that Dionysus was the solar aspect of Bacchus. In the East, Bacchus was an Oriental deity. Sabaean was the Oriental name for this deity. In earliest times, he was worshipped in Arabia and India. Bacchus has been considered to be the same as Osiris of the Egyptian myth. Yet Orpheus, it is believed, was first to carry the Egyptian faiths into Greece. The doctrine of the unity of God was taught by Orpheus. His incarnation, death, resurrection, or transfiguration, his union with matter, his division in the visible world, his return to the original unity were taught in the mysteries. The Bacchic rites at one time were of a high order. The Druid mystery schools were particularly strong in Gaul and Britain during the period of the Roman conquest. In their teachings, a simpler moral code was taught to all, while the deeper esoteric teachings were given only to the initiated. Max Muller referred to the Druids as the men of the oaks. Their study of nature was carried on in part in oak groves. It must be acknowledged that there were other mystery schools than those mentioned. The teachings of those schools which were not under the thumb of the pagan priests undoubtedly had a tremendous bearing upon our culture today. The light of knowledge in some of the mystery schools grew bright, then dimmed through pressure and strictures by the priesthoods, only to grow warm and bright again. Modern counterparts. It is evident that the teachings of the mystery schools have been retained by various orders and perhaps reclothed in new symbolic garments. Much of the ritualism of modern orders is based on the trials which candidates were subjected to and the dramas of the ancient mystery schools. The trials were necessary in order to find the candidates worthy of the keys of wisdom with which they were subsequently entrusted. Cagliostro declared that the rose on the cross was one of the ancient and true symbols of the mystery schools. It may be construed then that the mystery schools may have founded their symbolism upon the rose and cross. Just as regeneration is the key to mystical and spiritual existence, the rose and cross typify the regeneration of man through the union of his temporal nature with his higher divine nature. Just as the seed from the flowers which wither and die in the winter is reborn in the spring, so must man grow in the expansion and unfoldment of his intelligence, knowledge, wisdom, and the infinite power within his own being. Symbolically and allegorically, this was the high order of thought as taught by the true ancient mystery schools, and their rites were perhaps not as pagan as some historians would have us believe. The ancient mystery schools, which have modern counterparts in the Rosicrucian and other non-religious but fraternal orders, owed their existence to the desire to perpetuate esoteric truths and a practical philosophy of life. These teachings were withheld from the uninitiated so that they could be preserved from superstition and corruption. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.